Okay, guys. Welcome to another edition of the Detour Live. And I'm joined by four-time National Road Champion Johnny. Jeez, I'm rattled. I'm absolutely rattled. Johnny Trudeau, Olympic gold medalist, Scott McGrory. And what's the best race you won, Matty Keenan, that I could throw into the intro?
Northcote Club Championships, does that count?
Northcote Club champion, and also
it's a long way from Olympic gold, Australian titles.
No. Star of the early days of the Bay Cycling Classic, mate.
Yeah, I was the one who was the foundation of the result sheet, John. Somebody had to hold up the bottom end.
Who would have been the most prominent Northcote Club member, do you think?
At that time, when I won the club championships, we had Luke Roberts, Cadell Evans, and the Niewand family.
There you go.
Oh, wow.
I've said.
Yeah, the first race I ever won, Luke Roberts was second.
He's a chopper. What did he ever do?
And I will never forget the day that he finished fifth in the stage at the Tour de France on the mountain stage. It was the day that there was chain gate and it went into Bagnères de Luchon. And one of our colleagues said, Luke Roberts in with a chance to win. What a lightweight. Lightweight? What does that make us? We're on the side talking about him out there racing.
Hey, was that guy's initials Mike Tomalaris?
They were.
Yeah.
He loves the lightweight tag.
I couldn't believe it. Well,
boys, we're a minute and a half in, and I think we should probably get into the biggest news of the Giro so far. Obviously, Simon Yates testing positive to coronavirus. I'll start with you, John. Obviously, devastating news. Not just for – you don't even have to be a fan of Mitchelton-Scott. I think fans of sport, we've all lived and breathed this virus, but to hear that was obviously devastating.
Look, I've had to go through a few hours this afternoon. I found out through my little network very early, but it wasn't announced until just a couple of hour and a half ago. But, look, it's just devastating, and it probably answers a few things. And we talked to Matty White, which you're going to flick him on in a minute. But it's a real worry. I mean, the team's fine. They've tested all the team, and they're all clear. But it makes you really concerned that the race can get to Milan. And I have real concerns about the Vuelta. The way things are in Spain at the moment, I can't see the Vuelta happening personally. But we'll hear more of that soon, I'm sure.
Scooter, what's your gut shot? Do you think that the race will be like, all right, well, we've got our protocols and, they're in the bubble, we'll just keep moving forward? Or do you think there'll be bigger ramifications on the back of this?
No, I think they will at least start with just their protocols, apparently. And as John said, Matt White will explain a little bit more about that in a moment. But they've got their protocols in place. Apparently, for now, it's just Simon, and they'll stick with that. But as you mentioned, the Vuelta, when we get to that, Madrid and Spain are in a terrible place right now. So I think you're right on that one. There's a certain amount of desperation from the Giro organisers as well, just to try and, they've started the race, let's just keep going, and there may be a delay in the next positive COVID test. They might be hoping for that. We just don't know the background. But, they've got their procedures and protocols that they'll work on, and they'll be fingers crossed they'll get to Milan. It might not be after 3 weeks. They might just have to go there in a couple of days and finish it all up.
Now, Matty Keenan, suck in a big breath, mate, because I reckon you've got plenty to say about what's going on at the moment.
Oh, it's fascinating. And John says it's devastating news. And I take a slightly different view on it. And I'm interested in getting Scott's response to this. I'm wondering if in some respects there's a little bit of relief at Mitchelton-Scott because there's perhaps an explanation as to why Simon Yates was where he was. Because Simon was a guy coming into this race who we thought could be one of the riders to win. He started brilliantly in the individual time trial on stage one, where he took time on a lot of the other big favourites like Fulsang and Nibali. And then we saw him on the stage to Mount Etna get dropped with 8 kilometres to go and lose 3.5 minutes. And they were scratching their head thinking, what's going on? Sure, he's only just shown the symptoms and he's only just tested positive, but I'm wondering whether there were actually earlier symptoms and it was in his system earlier on. And Scott, from a rider's perspective, from an athlete perspective, does this maybe give them a little bit of peace of mind as to some sort of an explanation as to why Simon wasn't performing up to what we thought he would?
If they can trace back to after the time trial and think perhaps that's where he did actually get infected, then for sure, because they were all scratching their heads, and we talk about the disappointment of Mount Etna. No one was more disappointed than Simon himself. Came here with great form off the back of winning Torino Adriatico, great in the time trial, as you mentioned. And I know from my own personal experience, when I've had situations where I've had bad crashes and they've said that there was nothing really wrong, and you keep soldiering on, to then discover later on that there were fractures, there was something far more serious, and that is a relief for yourself. Your own peace of mind, because you just think that, well, I'm just not good enough, or something's gone wrong, I'm just struggling for some reason, I'm weak or I'm soft. But to actually have someone say, no, this is now the reason, it is peace of mind. But we just don't know for sure yet when he was infected.
Yeah, I'd like to learn a little bit. Sorry, Dan, I'd like to learn a little bit more about that, because
we should play. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have a listen to Whitey first.
Yeah, we've got it. We've got Whitey in 3 parts, so we can talk about what he's just said after each part. So here's part 1.
Yeah. So yesterday after the stage, Simon developed some mild symptoms, slight temperature, and just for safety precautions, we contacted the race organisation, and they came around last night and tested Simon. He returned a positive test for COVID. With the rapid test, and then the rest of our organisation was tested last night as well, and everyone else is negative. And then they did a more complex test on Simon late last night, and we've got the results through there, and that's also positive. So he will now be getting transported in an ambulance to northern Italy. We are very far south in Italy. You're getting transported in an ambulance back up to near our service course area near Varese. So where there's people around him, so we've got an apartment where he can stay, and he'll have to serve a 14-day quarantine before, and then retest it again and test negative before he'll be able to go home.
Is there any other effects within the team with what's happened?
No, nothing at all at the moment. We will be getting tested as a team the next 3 days. Once a day, and we just carry on as normal. The thing is, nobody else has any symptoms, and we'll be getting tested for the next 3 days. And obviously, like everyone else in the race, if you do develop symptoms, you can ask the race to come round into your hotel and do the rapid test.
Do you have any idea, Matt, how long it's been festering?
No, and nobody does, John, because people, every person is reacting differently to the virus. Some people can catch the virus yesterday and feel sick within 6 hours, and some people are taking a couple of weeks. But the difference with Simon is that we know that he's been tested 6 days out from the race, 3 days out from the race. And they were obviously also on arrival, so they're all negative. So he's contracted the virus sometime between the race start in Sicily and yesterday.
Is it ever worried that there's obviously the bubble, but it just shows that riders can still test positive when you're taking every precaution that you can?
Well, you're taking every precaution that you can, but we can only control so much. We're in a hotel where people are our riders are eating with the food from our kitchen, but at the end of the day, you're still going into hotel rooms. We're disinfecting the rooms, but you still have to touch things, and you just don't know where that could have come from. It could have come from a fan who came too close. It could have come from touching a door handle that somewhere in a hotel that wasn't sanitized. It could have. There's so many different ways to catch the virus, and no one will ever know where he got the virus. But we have done a very good job, and obviously at the moment with the bubble, there's only one person who has positive, and let's hope it stays like that.
So how is Simon himself?
He's good. I just dropped off before we left the hotel. Just dropped off some breakfast for him. He feels better this morning than he did last night. His temperature has gone down, and he doesn't feel sick. So obviously he's showing some mild symptoms, but obviously, we were scratching our heads there about his performance early in the race because after doing such a good time trial, and we know his preparation has been perfect coming in here, and it explains his underperformance on Mount Etna. That's for sure.
I reckon we soldier through part 2 and part 3 because there'd be no point in us talking about stuff that he's about to talk about after that. And apologies for the echo and the audio. We had a few audio dramas with White. I said, we can't stuff this one up, mate. Let's just get whatever we can get. So here's part 2 with White.
So, of course, this is a major change to your race plan. So what's the rejigged Mitchelton-Scott plan for the rest of the Giro?
Well, we also Eddie Affini is not starting today. He broke his hand yesterday, so he's off. He's off to get surgery this morning on a broken hand, and Damien Howson has broken a bone in his finger as well in the crash. And Damien will be starting today, and we'll be monitoring that situation. But Damien's a tough one. He's going to start today, and we'll see how we go with that. So yeah, we'll just play it by ear. Today's a day for a breakaway. We won't be interested in going anywhere today. The boys have had enough stress over the last 12 hours, and we sit tight today, let the race play out, and we've got a bigger day coming up tomorrow where there's going to be more emphasis on our climbing guys.
Now, Lucas Hamilton is now your leading rider, and he's actually going quite well. This is a big opportunity for him to just see what he can do.
Definitely, and we had a pretty rough day yesterday. Lucas crashed as well yesterday, which put him in one of the back groups, and he eventually made his way back to the peloton. But it wasn't the cruisiest of days yesterday. With we had three guys crashed and one guy's gone positive for COVID. But and also with the day before we lost Brent Brookwater. But it's racing, and we just got to adapt our plan. And Lucas and especially Jack are in good form, and the other boys will be here to help them out as best they can.
Yeah, how's the spirit of the rest of the group, Whitey? It must be obviously a bit of a shock with what's happened overnight, but are they all still pretty upbeat?
Yeah, mate. It's the good thing about these tests that we're getting here is within 15 minutes. So obviously it's a bit nervous when you've got someone in the group with who's got COVID, but unlike the Tour de France where we had to wait pretty much 24 hours, the initial tests here in Italy you find out within 20 minutes. So it's people are a lot more relaxed once you know that at the end of the day no one has any symptoms. Everyone's been tested last night. We'll be tested again tonight. So it's just carry on as normal, man.
Do you think that there will be any tweaks to the bubble protocol moving forward on the back of this? Like you said, there can still be things that happen with door handles or whatever. Do you reckon there'll be any changes? Or?
Well, look, let's just say the hotel staff, both in France and here in Italy, weren't taking the COVID issue as seriously as we were. We've had people serving us, and the riders are reading the food from our chef. But we've seen clowns coming out with trying to serve us dinner with the mask around their chin. Like some of the hotel staff are taking the piss.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's hard to change your culture, mate, and it's hard to change your mentality. And at the end of the day, if everyone wears a mask, everyone pays a little bit more attention to their general hygiene, it is quite hard to pass on the virus. The difference between people at home is we're changing hotels every day and coming into a new bubble every time we change hotel, and we have no control over. At the end of the day, hotel staff are not getting tested for COVID. Normal people on the street are not getting tested for COVID unless they have symptoms, and then it's too late. So it's a bubble, but it's a mobile bubble and one that we don't have total control over.
Here's the final part with Whitey. Yeah, I was going to say that's the biggest challenge with cycling. It's not like tennis or where it's all locked into one area and they can really control it. You're just a traveling circus, so you're only as good as the people that you're meeting at the next stop.
Yeah, and a lot of those people aren't taking the protocols as serious as we are.
Yeah.
I see the press release has just come out on the Mitchelton-Scott website, so it's now out and about, as they say. But look, we're all devastated. I've been singing up the praises of Simon because I still believed he was a big chance to win this overall. So it's devastating, really. But look, he's such a superstar. He'll come back from this.
Yeah, and look, the main thing is that his health stays good, and it'll be a long couple of weeks in quarantine for him. But the priority is obviously Simon's health and everyone's health in the organisation. And but for now, let's just carry on. We reset our goals, and we attack the Giro with a few less riders.
Well, all the best, mate. You're all doing a bang-up job, and hopefully you can have a week of stress-free riding ahead of you.
It'd be nice, wouldn't it, mate? We got a I said a pretty cruisy day tomorrow, a big day tomorrow, and then probably a well-deserved rest day on Monday.
Well, all the best, mate. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Warren.
All right. Cheers, gentlemen.
All right, there's a lot to unpack there. The thing that jumped out for me was, the whole restaurant staff, not taking proper protocols with the masks and things like that. What were some of the key takeaways you thought, Keno?
Yeah, the bubble, for sure. And it's not the only sport that's having that issue with the bubble. There was a fantastic interview that was done on Match Point podcast with Elaine Perez, one of Australia's leading tennis players. And she spoke about the difference in between the US Open versus Roland Garros. And I've got her interview here. I just want to give you a couple of the key points, which are exactly the same as what Matt White spoke about. She said the US, they nailed it. It was almost the perfect bubble. In terms of the hotel, it was incredible. They had security. You couldn't leave. And they kept a close eye on everybody's social distancing. They only left space for 2 people at a time in the dining room in a certain given area. They took every precautionary measure. Then she turned up in Paris, and they did everything that the US didn't do. There was only a good thing about Paris was that it was actually close to the venue. However, it was a case of no social distancing. People wore masks, but they weren't really on top of it. The hotels had regular guests, which Matt White has just touched on. They weren't controlling if anybody left the building or went to malls. There was no control within the bubble. The challenge that cycling has got, even more so than tennis, is it's going from hotel to hotel. What we saw in the tour was that they had 1 team per hotel. Instead of doing that, this is going to be really difficult to organise, is have multiple teams book out the entire hotel. So it's only the Tour de France at that hotel. Or in this case, it's only people from the Giro d'Italia. So that entire bubble is moving from spot to spot, as opposed to having people that aren't having the same level of sensitivity around the coronavirus that are in there as regular guests. It makes it almost impossible for the team to control. Every athlete talks about controlling the incontrollables, and they did that. The Tour has not done that for them. The Giro has not done that to the same level as what some other sports have done for them. And there's a whole bunch of things that they're just in the lap of the gods, and whether it's good luck or bad luck as to whether Simon Yates got it and whether somebody else gets it.
What do you reckon, Scooter?
Well, there's not much more to add to that, is it?
Yeah.
We heard from the Tour de France as well that there were some teams that were very disappointed with other teams and their lack of taking, the protocols seriously. In this case, Mitchelton, we know from as insiders with the team that they certainly have been taking it very seriously. But this is the virus, isn't it? It's one presentation person. It could be anyone, a spectator. We saw him even yesterday when they were coming in yesterday's stage. The spectators, how many spectators there were in each of the towns. Everybody came out. We're in the south of Italy. Perhaps they weren't as badly hit as they were up in the north. Well, they certainly weren't as badly hit as they were in the north of Italy, around Bergamo in that area. So
I mute. It's John, of course.
Of course.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, hey, could be more breaking news. It's another post.
Yeah. Do you want to answer it live, John? Who is it?
The positive I take from this positive.
It was Jerry, but I just put him off. Okay.
Eddie Merckx, wasn't it? We were trying to get Eddie Merckx to come on. At least we're talking about something that is a global pandemic, and it's not. I'm actually, there's a little part of me that's thinking we're not talking about the days of old. It's a positive drug test. That's one good thing about this positive test. It's for COVID-19, and we can expect someone like Simon to recover from it. I think, Matt, it was Giulio Ciccone, I think, had COVID earlier this year, and he's recovered now. He's at the Giro. So for him personally, he should be okay. But it just means, what is it going to mean? Is it going to spread through the race? Let's just hope not.
Yeah, and Scott touched on, Dan, Scott touched on something really important. It was almost impossible for the race to actually control. Actually, it is impossible for the race to control. It's up to the local governments. The spectators on the side of the road. You know, there's spectators on the side of the road, and you can't help but get excited when the race comes past. And the mask ends up down over the chin as opposed to where it is meant to be. And they might be asymptomatic, as we know, with this virus, and therefore it can get spread really quickly. And I'll be surprised if there aren't more riders who test positive, with Simon Yates having had it. And you know what happens, Scott, in the peloton, you end up wearing a little bit of snot from a few riders sitting in front of you. The one bonus with Simon Yates, the way he rides, he sits last wheel the whole race anyway, so maybe there was nobody behind him.
No, but he's getting 170 bits of droplets of snot that are coming back through the peloton.
So he's the collection point.
I get that with a friend of Johnny's in the Bendigo bunch.
Phil Sawyer.
Phil Sawyer, exactly. He doesn't mind blowing his nose.
Snot
doesn't matter
rockets.
where he is in the bunch. He doesn't look for anyone behind. If you've got your mouth open, you're copping a bit of Phil's snot. And that would definitely be happening in the Giro.
Yeah, so I'm really looking forward to seeing how the race organisers, how they respond to it.
Yeah, evidently the so-called experts don't believe that the spectators on the side of the road are a real issue for the riders, especially on the flat. They don't believe that there is any issue. On the mountains, a little bit more. When they get close and that, there's a bit more of a chance. But they still don't believe that really is the issue. The issue is mixing with staff at hotels and those type of things. That's going to be where it comes from. But
I do think, John, even if they're not an issue in terms of the virus, it must add a level of stress and the prospect of it being, particularly in the mountains. As an athlete, you two guys are best placed to answer that as opposed to Dan and I. It must add a level of stress, the thought of that being a possibility.
Of course it must. There's no doubt about that. But, you know, look, it's a different world we're living in right now. There's no doubt about that. But I think the future, the biggest challenge the sport has right now is the responsibility of everyone as to, should we really be running an event through a country where there's a pandemic, a serious pandemic? Tour de France, as good as it was for our sport, probably shouldn't have happened.
You've nailed it, John. It's the responsibility to the broader community. As one of the professors from the UK said right at the very start, this is not about you. It is about everybody else. And now we're seeing Paris-Roubaix is being cancelled. The Netherlands is getting a lot tighter. London is getting huge numbers. There are restrictions, a significant lockdown back happening in Madrid once again. And meanwhile, in Melbourne, we've got 14 today, 11 yesterday, and we're still in lockdown and we're still looking for the way out. So there's a lot more at stake than what there is with the bike race.
Well, as you've seen, like it all comes down to government. If the government's getting pressure from the general public saying, hey, hang on, you've got a rider that's tested positive, why are you still doing this event? And that sort of increases, well, won't it essentially come down to whatever the governments want to do?
Yes, it will.
Yeah, but remember how there was a lot of pressure from just the fans, sports fans wanting to get back to sport, whether you want to go and play golf or do whatever sporting activity. And when the racing started, there was a lot of people that were like, oh, finally, there's some sport to watch on television. So for us, it's great to watch it. But then there's a certain percentage of the population that may get lulled into a false sense of security that, oh, well, everything's back to normal. Look at the great big peloton.
Yeah.
All the people that are around the race, everything is okay. Let's go about our business. And that's where it gets dangerous, the message that we're sending by doing these sporting events without actually being very clear about the protocols that are in place. Tennis, as you mentioned, Matt, quite easy to put two players, keep them isolated in one hotel. And it's not as if you've got this massive big peloton going down, the feed zones and all the different positions and after the finish with the media. It's far more complicated to try and keep a clean environment within the cycling peloton. And perhaps that's not a great message.
Yeah, and I think the optics for the sport are really important, and that goodwill that the sport needs to get as well is really important. And if there's any sport that can actually spread the virus, it's a tour, because it goes from town to town to town. And then in terms of those optics, when it was all breaking in France in March, Paris-Nice was on. And on one day, the government was online, the president was online talking about the fact, okay, lockdown starts tomorrow or restrictions start tomorrow, maximum of 100 people, schools are closing, universities are closing. The next day, Paris-Nice started when there was a restriction to a gathering of 100 people. Paris-Nice started the next day with 112 riders in the peloton. That's not a good look for the sport.
No.
Yeah. Think about the day before. So if Simon Yates had his fever last night, so they quickly did the tests, okay? But let's go back the day before. He was in the peloton with a bunch of riders. He was at a hotel the night before. They're all staying in rooms on their own, but someone had to clean that room. You know, you had to go down to the restaurant to have, you know, used the utensils and knives and forks and all those different things. So they'll have to go back and contact trace through the hotel the day before that. There could have been plenty of staff that were exposed to it.
Yeah, and Sam makes a good point. She says if riders aren't tested till the rest day, then riders will keep spreading the virus. There will be more positive.
Sam. Spot on, Sam. You've nailed it. Yeah. Can we talk about just Simon Yates in the race for a moment? I was watching the race last night, pulling my hair out, and I got Lego hair, plenty of it to pull out. Scott, riddle me this. How does he get away with sitting last wheel all the time as a genuine GC contender on a day where everybody's anticipating a crosswind?
Yeah, look, last night was he was extremely fortunate. Up until now, he's out of the race. It doesn't matter, but there were so many crazy incidences in last night's stage. We weren't expecting much, but then when the wind picked up, then the race was splitting apart. Then it was coming back together. Then there was a crash. When it was splitting up again, and then it came back together because of the big crash. So it all was together at the end, and Simon was behind all of that. And because of the nature of the race and respect being given to the riders that had gone down, he was able to rejoin with everybody else. It must be frustrating for Whitey and for the team and for the other riders. You know, obviously, Simon's head's probably not where it should be after his performances on Etna to start with. And obviously, we don't know exactly how he was feeling in the body with the fact that we now know that he had a fever last night. So he did have COVID during the stage yesterday. But it's got to be pretty hard from everyone in the team. You're there to ride for him. You want him to be in the right position. And look, I know this from the guys at Mappe, the first year that Cadell rode for the team, and he was leading the Giro d'Italia. New to the sport, brilliant mountain bike rider, had won races on the road as well. But Mappe were going to the front on the climbs and riding tempo, and Cadell was sitting back in about 30th, 40th position. And one of the big voices of the peloton back then, Andrea Noe, he would go back to Cadell and grab him by the shoulder and say, mate, get up here. If we cause a split, you're behind it, and we've caused it. It's frustrating for the teammates of the stars if they're not sitting in the right position in the peloton.
Yeah, and then you see a guy like Vincenzo Nibali never misses the split, ever.
Courses them sometimes.
Yeah, correct. He's calling the shots.
To just what did happen yesterday, to give him a little bit of license, was that
defence lawyer John Trevorrow.
Yeah, well, early on before the break,
my cousin Vinny.
Before the break went, Simon actually was in the front part of the race, and then the break goes away. They all sit up, and it was the breaks. It was one of those. Oh well, they've let the break go. It's going to be an easy day. He then dropped back, and then the side winds popped up, and whoa, the race changed.
Okay,
yes.
It's not an isolated incident. It's not the first time it happened.
No. He's renowned for it. There's no doubt about that.
He's a repeat offender.
Yeah.
And we want him to be successful. We want to see him at the front because we do have a bias towards the Mitchelton-Scott team. And the little bit of interaction I've had with him, I've enjoyed his company. But, gee, I find him frustrating to watch.
Yeah, but, mate, he's got coronavirus. Give him a bloody break.
Yesterday he did. But the previous 27 times, Dan, he didn't.
Yeah, that's right.
But they do have another rider in the team who does a very similar thing.
His name's Adam.
Yates as well.
Peter Wedding was the same as well. He'd always sit at the back.
Now, what about Lucas Hamilton? He's got the attitude of a guy that will find his spot at the front. And once he gets a little bit stronger and a little bit more of a presence within the peloton, I can't imagine him missing those splits. He rides with a great attitude.
There's a funny story about Daryl Impey dropped to the back one day and was talking with Peter Weeding. This is when he first left the team. And he was saying, Weendog, why do you always ride at the back? He goes, bah, all the shit happens at the front. You know, you never have any dramas at the back here. And he reckons this literally 10 seconds later, Weendog hit this massive rock and binned it over the top, over the handlebars, and crashed out of the race. This was like 2 or 3 years ago, and Gerald was like, "You can't script that. You can't script that."
I remember 1998. You'll remember this, Matt. Marco Pantani won the Giro d'Italia that year, then went on to the Tour de France and kept talking it down. Oh, I'm just going to see how I go. It can't be serious. I'm not going to be able to win both. And sat at the back of the bunch a lot. But he had his Mercantoni Uno team hang around him all the time. I remember one stage in particular, crosswinds hit. He had his team with him the whole way there already. So they just rode in their echelon, brought him back to the front again, and went on to win that Tour de France that year, did the double, the Giro and the Tour. And yeah, it's probably the only other person that I could remember that was often out of position, but it was only because he'd won the Giro and he was trying to talk down the Tour and then went on to win the bloody thing.
Yeah, somehow he got away with it.
Yeah.
In more ways than one.
Well, eventually he didn't, did he? Sadly, in many respects for him as a human being beyond cycling.
Yeah. What about the stage? What about the stage result, guys?
Yeah,
who
Arnaud Demar. He's sprinting. He's won. So far we've had, it was stage 7, right? Last night we've had 3 stages.
Yep.
Taken out, but we've had Arnaud Demar win 3 stages and Filippo Ganna win 2 stages. So between 2 riders, 5 of the stages have been won. And the first 2 stages that Arnaud Demar won, he wasn't the favourite for. And last night, Peter Sagan could not get out of his slipstream. He was phenomenal, head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah.
Very true. And exactly. I did pick him, so that's one to me.
John,
Dan, remember?
I picked him as well. He's $2.10.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You were saying I hadn't picked a winner.
Oh,
I think
okay.
I picked him too, didn't I? Did I pick him? No, I threw up Gaviria as a threat because we thought it might have been just a flat run in.
We all picked him. We all picked him.
Yeah, he had nothing. He had when Demar, when he hit out, that was it. Gaviria just sat back down. He had nothing. Michael Matthews in the mix again, 3rd place for him. Peter Sagan, as you said, couldn't come off the wheel. But good to see Michael Matthews up and about. So at least he's keeping himself in the mix. Maybe he could be a rider that could go on the attack tonight.
I didn't check the Sunweb website to see if they did another one of those depressing videos.
Apparently you need to get a job with them. They need a bit of an uplift, Dan.
Yeah, it was a bit flat, that other one. Hey,
I feel like Michael Matthews needs a stage win in this year's Giro.
Yeah,
I'd be very surprised if he doesn't win one. Actually, he's formed very good.
Why he needs
very
one,
good
because there's that expectation that he will.
That's the odds for today's stage. He's currently 3rd favourite, and Demar, he's drifted a little bit. But
I'll tell you who's been really impressive with Arnaud Demar. He stepped up a lot this year. Has been Miles Scottson. He looked a little bit lost last year with that team, as if he didn't really have a clear role. But Giacomo Guarnieri, the Italian, really the leader of that lead-out train, has taken him under the wing, and I feel as if he's found his rhythm, and he's going to be a real key part of that lead-out train for a long time to come. I hope so anyway.
Yeah, I actually penciled him in here to mention him because, obviously 18 Australians in the Giro this year. Most of them, if not all of them, are now working for others anyway. But you can see him in the race. He's constantly looking around. Groupama FDJ, obviously they're really prominent at the front, especially last night with the crosswinds situation. And you can just see Miles always looking around, making sure he's in the right position, doing the right thing. So he really has stepped up. And we know from his track background, he's got some real power if it's needed towards the end. That said, Demar pretty much has been not too reliant on a lead-out train, and it's been very difficult for any teams to actually line it out, K and a half to go with 4 or 5 riders still in the front. We haven't seen that. I think that's a thing of the past. They've used up so much energy in the 10Ks before that just to have their sprinters in the right position before they even get into the final K.
Yeah, and just quickly back to Fernando Gaviria, we've got more evidence of anybody who leaves the Koenig Quick-Step as a sprinter goes downhill afterwards. Marcel Kittel didn't win as much afterwards. Mark Cavendish still won a lot, but not as much as he did at the Koenig Quick-Step. And then on the back of that, Elia Viviani has not won a race since leaving the Koenig Quick-Step, not one race since he's joined Cofidis, and Fernando Gaviria is another one. It's a long list.
Yeah, why is that? They've just got such a good train, and
the train plays a big role. I mean, Mikel Murku, he is the world's best lead-out man without question. The job that he does at that team is phenomenal.
I think perhaps there's also an element of they're too scared to not win because of the fear of Patrick Lefevre, their boss. He will absolutely rip their heads off.
Fear's a great motivator, you think?
Yeah, well, sometimes get the whip out. Woof.
He's very loyal, though, Lefebvre. How many times has his riders stuffed up either on social media or whatever, and he'll just go straight out, go straight into bat. He's like the Eddie Maguire of world cycling.
Yeah, he backs him. Have you ever heard his voicemail message?
No?
You ring his phone, it goes to voicemail. It's just simple. It just says, Lefebvre, beep.
Well, his stock's just gone up in my books. Hey, we've got Grace Brown coming on the show soon.
Well, I'll leave you to it.
Yeah,
I'll tune in and I'll listen to Grace. What a ride by Grace. What a couple of weeks it's been for her.
Mate, you don't have to leave. Like, if you want to stay on and have a chat.
But if you are going, Matty, I want to know what you think of today's stage. Who's your pick for today's stage?
Oh, Damar, for sure. I think that early break will go. They'll get a few minutes. Groupama, FDJ have to actually do a bit of work on the front for a change. Somehow they're getting away with not doing much work, but I can't see past Arnaud Damar. He's climbing better than most of the sprinters as well, so he's getting to the last couple of kilometres slightly fresher, and he's quicker than them.
I'm going to go against him today because that's a Cat 1. That's a serious climb. It's around the coast all the way, and then they climb that, and then they go through the finish and do a loop. I reckon that they'll put a lot of pressure on up there, and a couple of the Damars of this world will get spat.
Okay, it's 94 Ks to go.
Yeah, it's a cat.
It's a long way to go, but it's not that. No, it's Cat 1. What he said.
Yeah, it's a Cat 1.
Well, on the
profile, it's a Cat 2. No, it's a Cat 2.
Okay.
Listen to me, boys.
Well,
all right, Scott. Okay. I want to hear what Scott has to say. What do you think?
Look, I think this would have been a stage for a breakaway. So pancake flat to start with, so challenging and hard to form a break in those conditions. But with the climb in the second half, it's a race in two. The first part is completely flat. Then you got the Cat 2, and it's just lumpy all the way to the end. But I think everybody's a little bit nervous. The sprinters don't have an abundance of opportunities, even though Damar has won so much already. So I think they'll be trying to control it. If a breakaway does go, Groupama will try and control it as much as possible. A Cat 2, a bit easier to get over, obviously, than a Cat 1. It'll be a tough job for them, but I just don't think that they'll let a breakaway have its opportunity, which I think normally in a stage like this in the Giro, this would have been for the breakaway because of the difficult terrain after that climb all the way to the finish.
So the first 20 or 30 Ks could be the most entertaining to see who gets in the break, how big it is and how strong it is, and whether it is a break that can survive or one that the teams of the sprinters can control.
Yeah, and it definitely comes down to the sprinters as well, because obviously it's more of a sprint stage, and tomorrow is a mountain stage. So the GC guys don't want to do too much at all. If there's any crosswind, though, that first part, which is flat, that's going to be challenging. It'll be just like it was in last night's stage.
We've got Grace waiting in the lobby now. I think you should stay on, Ken. You're a cycling almanac. You're going to be able to add heaps to this. And we don't want to rely on John, pretty much. Grace joins us now. Grace, welcome to the Detour Live. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. It's great to be here.
Grace. Congratulations.
Phenomenal.
Fantastic win.
You are doing social distancing the right way, breaking away with 18 kilometres to go. How dare you? What a ride. How did it feel the last couple of Ks?
The last couple of Ks were probably the best. I sort of felt then that I had the gap and was maintaining it. So, it started to really sink in then, and it was exciting.
That was on Wednesday, Brahms Appeal. Was it on Wednesday that you won that one?
I'm losing track of days a bit, but pretty sure that was Wednesday.
So you got 5th in the time trial at the World Championships. You were 2nd at Liège, best on Liège. Then you won on Wednesday. Just back to Liège, best on Liège. You had Marianne Vos behind you, sitting on your wheel, going up the final climb. I want to take you back maybe 4 years when you were riding for the Holden team. You were at the Tour of Margaret River, and you got a photo riding two abreast at the front with Marianne Vos. At that point, I took the photo. At that point, did you ever think that you would be riding Marianne Vos out of your wheel?
No, definitely not on a climb. I've never really been a climber, but yeah, that was not what I was expecting to be able to do. was pretty crazy, to be honest.
And then, sorry to hog all the questions.
No, you're
guys.
on fire, mate. Keep it going.
We had Lizzie Dagnan at 1 minute, and I think she was 1 minute and 8 seconds when you made your move, maybe 1 minute and 10 seconds perhaps. And then it looked like it was pretty much sewn up for her at that point. But then she started looking over her shoulder and you started getting closer. And then they started going from motorbike shots to helicopter shots. And we knew it was getting close. 8 seconds or 9 seconds in the end. Did you think an extra K you could have had her?
Oh, who knows? Like when I attacked, I thought the win was gone anyway. And I was initially just racing for second, I think. But then at the top of the climb, I'd already made 30 seconds on Lizzie. And then it just kept coming down. I think if I'd had a few more Ks, I may have got there. But yeah, you can always ask questions like that. I was happy with it in the end.
You know what you needed? You needed a few more wet roundabouts. There was one roundabout where you took about 3 seconds off her. She went on the right side and you went on the left side. And at that point, I got a text message from Pat Fitzpatrick, the skills training work. Tell us about that.
So I've been doing a little bit of work with Pat Fitzpatrick when I'm back in Melbourne. He takes me out on some crazy rides and just gets me to do things that I've previously been uncomfortable with. So it's just been a real matter of, ticking away at a lot of those other things that come into racing other than the raw power.
Awesome. I'll let somebody else ask a question.
Well, I was just going to say, Grace, congratulations, darling. It's fantastic. Now, you're a local girl. I'm down Geelong. You're a Camperdown lady. So tell us about, a lot of people wouldn't know that you only started racing quite late. You were a middle distance runner and started riding the bike well into your 20s. But how did that all happen?
So basically my whole sort of childhood, I did running from primary school, high school, and even into university. I did cross country and athletics. I didn't, I maybe went on a bike ride here or there with my parents, but never really owned a bike. But then I got a lot of injuries running, and at 23, I just decided that I'd had enough and thought that maybe I'd give cycling a go. So I bought a bike and got hooked pretty quick and got very competitive.
Now, I gave one of your old DSs a call, Marty Tobin, because when I knew we were going to be talking to you, and I said, tell me a bit about her. Did you know that she was going to be this good? And he said straight away, that talent was shining out. I said, tell me a story. He said, well, one of her first races with us, it was a tour, we turned up at the start and she said, oh, I've left my kit back at the hotel. You had no kit. You remember that?
I think that was my first tour down under. I rocked up at one of the stages without any kit. Luckily, one of the other girls had packed a spare, and we made numbers out of, I don't know, I think the race book or something. So I can be known to be a little bit absent-minded at times with things like that.
That's a wonderful story. But you went very well on that tour down under as well, didn't you? I think you won a stage in that tour down under.
No, that was the year later that I won. Okay. No, I came third, I think.
Grace,
I don't know. I can't remember.
Grace, what was the steepest learning curve? What was the biggest thing that you weren't really ready for, or that you learnt from the first couple of seasons, perhaps in Europe?
For me, definitely the hardest part of racing over here has been getting accustomed to being in the peloton and positioning up the front. And particularly into the really crucial parts of races. And I think that's been one of the biggest things that's helped me succeed in the last few races, is that sort of stuff is just starting to click in for me. it just takes constant work over a really long period of time.
Well, don't stress too much. The Yates brothers still haven't worked it out.
That's true. Because it's also about being in the right position. Okay, you can step out into the wind and just move up and be in the right position, but then you've used up all your energy. So obviously, it's we're learning how to surf the peloton, isn't it? It's a big challenge. And coming from the NRS, you just wouldn't have had to do that back in the day.
No, racing the NRS, you could just sit on the back and then see someone attack and go after them from the back. But you can't get away with stuff like that in the Euro peloton. So you just have to learn how to do it. Otherwise, you won't be in the race.
Grace, can I ask you a question about dreams and aspirations? I assume as a kid doing athletics, you dreamt of the Olympics.
Yeah, I think pretty much maybe not all kids dream of going to the Olympics at some stage, but definitely as a young runner, I thought that was something that I wanted to do, and I don't know if I ever believed that it was actually going to be possible, but now it's within my sights, which is pretty incredible.
If the Olympics were this year in 2020 when they were meant to be on, do you think you would have been selected for the Australian team?
I was in with a chance still for this year, but I think that I have more of a chance now that it's been delayed, actually. So I'm not complaining yet.
Oh, it's a lot more.
Yeah. Well, when you finished second at Liège-Bastogne-Liège, one of the comments that I made on air was that you have just selected yourself for the Olympic Games, and then you won on Wednesday. So you've been fifth at the World Championships. The ride you put in at Flèche Wallonne was outstanding as well, when you took Lucy Kennedy to the bottom of the Mer de Huy, and then riding away from Marianne Vos, almost catching Lizzie Deignan at Liège-Bastogne-Liège, then winning on Wednesday solo, breaking away with 18 kilometres to go. If you're not selected next year, the four of us will lead the petition to make the change.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Someone will be fired.
Grace, you must be devastated that the Paris-Roubaix has been cancelled. That's terrible.
I had a fan question lined up. That was
there you go. Well, there you go.
Oh, good timing.
Sorry.
Pretty devastated to learn that just yesterday. We were out as a team on the course on Thursday, getting familiar with the cobbles, and we did quite a bit of damage to our hands, but we were very excited to race.
Just on that, we interviewed Gracie Elvin on the Social Distance podcast. I always love plugging that one. And here's a snippet about exactly what you just said.
But Gracie, we've had the bloody carpet ripped out from underneath us 5 minutes before the show started. We wanted to talk to you all about a couple of things. Obviously, you've announced your retirement. You're up in Belgium for the Classics and your last Classics campaign of your career. But secondly, we wanted to talk about the first ever women's Paris-Roubaix. And it's been bloody cancelled.
Yeah, pretty devo right now. It's actually good bad timing to have this chat. I was on the ergo because my hands are shredded because I did Paris-Roubaix recon yesterday.
Oh, look at that blister. Give us another go at that. Oh, yeah. Wow.
That was after 2 sectors yesterday. So, Sam, your mate, Luca, gave us the heads up last night at dinner. Number 1, don't do it. Number 2 is don't wear gloves. And so Jess and I decided to try that. No gloves, 2 sectors in, hand absolutely shredded.
So it looks like you asked the mechanics to replace your bar tape with sandpaper. I mean, that's two sections in.
Yeah. I don't think there's a right or wrong in Roubaix. I've tried every way. I've tried with gloves, I've tried without gloves, I've tried cutting gloves, I've tried plasters, I've tried everything, and I've never pulled it off. I don't know. You got to just callus them up somehow before Roubaix. But
that's a age-old question: to glove or not to glove.
Well, Michael Jackson, he hedged his bets.
That's it. So, did your hands get shredded, as you said?
I've got a few blisters, not as bad as Gracie. I wore gloves, and they're fine now. But I think you can see some there.
So what are your goals for the rest of the season, Grace? And are you going to be heading back to Australia at the end of the year?
Yeah, it's my plan to head back mid-November to Australia. But yeah, obviously the situation with flights getting back in is a little bit dodgy at the moment. So yeah, I was sort of just gonna go for it and hope that it works out. But before that, I've got 3 more races left. 3. So I've got Wevelgem tomorrow, and then Flanders next weekend, and Depanne during the week after.
You're getting a lot of love online at the moment. Kirsty Baxter, absolute hitter. GB, a lovely young lady. Love your journey, GB. And then we've got another one from a big fan, Scott McGrory. Grace, tell us about your parents' work and where they live.
He can't get a question in.
Yeah, there's too many of us doing it.
That's a great strategy, Scotty. I love it.
It's a good photo too.
Your parents.
Look at that. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, my parents are my biggest fans. You probably have come across my mum on Twitter along your journey, but they both live up on Thursday Island, which is the highest point of Australia off Cape York. And yeah, they both work in. My mum's the Rural Health Commissioner of Australia, and my dad operates the hospitals and health services in Cape York and the Torres Strait. So they do some pretty epic work.
That is impressive. That is proper work. Fantastic.
Beautiful.
Do you get to see them very much with them being up there?
Well, in non-COVID times, and when I'm back in Australia, I get to see a bit of them. They travel a lot, so they try and link in trips down to Victoria or wherever I might be. But yeah, I haven't seen them since January or February this year, so it's been a while. I'm hoping that maybe we can all see each other in Christmas this year.
One more question on Thursday Island. Have you gone up there with the bike? And how? Look, I don't know how big it is. Can you ride around there?
No, I haven't taken my bike up there because the island. If you ride around the island, you'll be doing a 5-kilometre lap. So
same as Melbourne. Same as
us, yeah.
Melbourne.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The 5K rule up there doesn't really have much effect, but everyone goes out on their boats, so they might be a bit annoyed about that.
You got anything you want to throw in there, Keenan or Iffy, before we let Grace go?
Good luck in Flanders. Become the first Australian to win the Tour of Flanders.
Yep, no pressure. Just go out and win it.
Hey, you can. Hey, you can. No worries, Grace.
Absolutely. You're one of the favourites.
Yeah.
There's the question. You go from being one of the underdogs who can slightly slip under the radar. You're now going to be one of the marked riders. You'll be listed as one of the favourites. You'll be in the discussion before the race starts. How do you think you'll be able to cope with that?
Yeah, it's really weird going from someone that no one really, like, people mention that I'm strong and I'm like a really good domestique, but now all of a sudden, yeah, I'm getting listed as a favourite in races, which is a new thing to me, and it just seems very sudden. But yeah, I don't feel more pressure than I have in the past. I don't think. I usually just go out and try and do my best in a race, and I get all the adrenaline and just get into the race and do what I can. So I'll just continue racing like that, I think.
That's a good idea. Keep doing your thing. If you can ride Mariana Vos off your wheel, you're definitely one of the favourites, and what you're doing is working. So stick at it, and congratulations on a phenomenal season under really difficult circumstances.
Fantastic.
I've got one final question. I thought of it, and we ask it to a lot of guests. We ask the talent pipe and everyone. And it's always to people that have experienced success, and that is, we're in the middle of a pandemic and people are looking for stories of motivation and things like that. What advice can you give people out there that need a bit of a pick-me-up, particularly when moments that are tough, that you have to really push through?
The strategy that I like to use most when I find something tough or overwhelming is really breaking it down into manageable pieces, and focusing on what you can do in the current moment. Just taking the next step, because
the audio cut out right at the good bit.
Yeah, that's particularly something that I use in like a time trial type situation. I go, all right, this is the next point that I want to get to. I'm going all out until there. And then when I get there, I find my next point. So I think that can be applicable to all tough situations.
Just split it up into little bits and then deal with a little bit at a time.
That's fantastic. That is brilliant.
Size chunks.
Yeah, we got that. That's wonderful.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm 71. I'm 71 now, Grace, but I'll try and start listening to that. I'll try and start living by that rule.
Well, it's like Wi-Fi issues on this show. That's just a little bit. We'll worry about that, and then we move on to the next thing. So, yeah, that's fine. Well, thanks for joining us, Grace. You're an absolute superstar, as the guy said. Good luck for Flanders and the rest of the season. And,
get well again.
Get well again. Yes. All the best. Thanks very much. I see you on a delay.
Good luck, Grace.
Yeah.
Set up. Bye.
Yeah. The old Wi-Fi. Yeah, absolute superstar.
So Mitchelton-Scott will have a two-pronged attack now, Annemiek van Vleuten and Grace. So that's great tactically for the team as well.
I like how Keenan goes, mate, I'll let you go. And then he just smashes around the park for the first 4 or 5 overs. Mate,
we played 2020.
We don't have that level of research on this program.
I didn't do any research either. I didn't know you were going to have Grace Brown on. You just told me during the show.
No, it's like a game of totem tennis. You know, the tennis on the pole. and you've got a good player versus someone and it's bang, 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 bang.
Yeah.
Watch, like, seriously, come on,
Scotty couldn't even get near the ball, so he came up with his own rules. I like that. That was good.
Scott's question goes down to the question of the night. How good was that answer? What about those parents as role models?
Yeah. Sensational.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
And what a strategy to get a question in when you're one of the hosts of the show that you send it in on
Facebook.
Love it.
That is the Detour podcast in one tweet.
I was waiting for Dan to delete the comment.
No. I saw it pop up. It's like new comment. I'm going, who's this bloke? Scott. Oh, geez, Scooter.
Who's this smart ass? Who's this smart ass?
Well, I'm not in a hurry to finish the show because I just checked the scores and Geelong are 40 points and Collingwood was 6. And Kay's in there as a Geelong supporter, and I'm going to cop it when I walk in the door. So I'm happy to stay out here.
Okay, well, this will take another minute. Off you go, John.
The wonderful Mitchelton Hotel. Up on the beautiful Goulburn River. There you can see that. It's looking bigger tonight because it's taken me 2 weeks. I've worked out how I can make the whole thing bigger on my TV, on my screen. So this is all new to me.
That's sensational insights.
This is a great ad. What a great plug for Mitchelton.
Yeah.
But the Mitchelton... Sorry, mate, you can. Yes.
Can I plug it?
Yeah,
yes,
go for it.
Okay. Well, the Mitchelton Winery is the ideal place to have a holiday in Ngambia. You can go there with your family. There's opportunities for the kids to have a play in the pool. The accommodation has recently been updated. It is world-class, amongst the very best. And you're not too far away from where Americane laid the foundations to go on to win the Melbourne Cup. And when David Keenan, the brother of Matthew Keenan, got married in 2005. The Keenan family hired the house that is just off to the left-hand side of the screen, and they all stayed there together before having the celebrations on the grounds of the Mitchelton Winery. Do yourself a favour. When COVID finishes, get there for a holiday.
Oh, well done, Matty.
I've been sacked.
Well done. I've stayed in that house as well.
It's great, isn't it?
It's not normally part of the accommodation, is it? It's because of the connection.
No, it's an old homestead. It was my brother hired it separately. It was a fantastic experience.
The other horse. What's the other horse?
Black Caviar.
Black Caviar. Yeah. I'm not a horse guy. Sorry.
No, nor am I. I like to keep my money in my pocket as opposed to giving it away to bookies.
All right, what we'll do.
Some people win, but not me.
Apparently,
I won. I got the quaddie today in Melbourne.
How much have you lost over the years?
All right, we've got to go to an ad now from Bike Exchange.
Hey, Dan, I've got to go. I'm going.
Okay.
I'm going to go and put the kids to bed.
Okay.
You should look at this ad first, Matty. It's one of the best ads I've ever seen.
I agree. You're not doing the voiceover, are you?
No.
No, it's fantastic.
All right, thanks,
for having
Matty.
me on.
Good on you, mate. Loved it. Cheers, mate. All right, as we said, here's a quick word from our great mates at Bike Exchange.
Look at this bike. You think it's just a bike, right? But it's not. It's a bike. 374 people are looking at. This guy, this girl, them, all looking at it. People from here, there, and wherever this is. People that are looking for a bike. Or just a piece of it. Amateurs, semi-amateurs, and pro-amateurs. This guy wants this bike, but with this crank and these bars. This could be the perfect match, but not this one. This girl has a bike to sell, and thousands of people might purchase it. Eyes on Bikes help grow small businesses. His, hers, yours, and the latest data and insights help those businesses keep moving. We are the world's #1 bike marketplace, with over 500,000 products and 900 brands, where buyers and sellers are brought together in a place where a bike is never just a bike. Bike Exchange, where the world buys, sells, learns, and rides.
What nationality do you reckon she used the voiceover for that?
I reckon she's Scandinavian.
Yeah.
So which nationality then?
Swedish.
Swedish.
Perhaps.
Yeah. All right. Well, that wraps the show. I didn't line up a clip for the Detour DeLorean. I thought, look, it was a bit somber the first part, and plus I couldn't be stuffed.
Well, it was a great show. Look, Grace Brown just blew me away. She is just fantastic.
Yeah. Absolute legend.
So 200k stage coming up tonight, but guys, Giro Venazzo to Vieste. It's along the coast the whole way, and then they do a loop at the end. We know about the Category 2 mid-stage, but it's really lumpy. The second half is all along the coast. It could be exposed, plus just really up and down, and then they come into town and do 2 laps. There's a hill each time on the circuit. It's 1k long, about 9% gradient. So it's not going to be a straightforward sprint. I don't think the fastest sprinters will still be there at the end. Demar is strong enough to still be there. But I think it's an opportunity here for Ulissi or one of these sorts of riders. Maybe Ben Swift. There's another name I'll throw in the mix.
I'm going to say Michael Matthews is my pick, and I don't think Demar will be there because I think that hill is going to play a bigger part than what you reckon, because it's not that far out of the finish line. I know it's halfway in the stage, but they come into the finish area here, and then they do your 2 loops. So, it's a different sort of dynamic. I think they'll put the pressure on over there, and the Demars and of this world will be out the back.
Expect Bora to drive it on the climb to try and get rid of him. Try to, at least. They weren't able to do it last time they did that. At least to make it hard to give Sagan. He's going to be desperate to try and get a win. It's another stage that Sagan could go okay in.
I'm going Ulissi. Winning form's good form. Similar sort of profile last time. He got the chocolates. That's my pick. Man. 650.
Matthews, Ulissi, Demar. Okay.
No worries. That wraps a pretty epic day at the Giro. Who knows what tomorrow's going to dish up, but hopefully, as we said, Mitchelton-Scott boys can just give them one day of drama-free, give them a bloody break. And a nice plate of swordfish to finish the day, presented with someone from the restaurant wearing a mask. See you tomorrow.